You are moving through your day-to-day experiences, interacting with one another, and you are having emotional responses to what you are observing, yes? In fact, for most people, your emotional response is all about something that you are observing. It doesn't have to be. You could be conjuring it in your mind. You could be imagining it. But most people are offering most of their vibration and therefore most of their emotion in response to something that they are observing. So let's say that you are moving through your day and you are observing different things, and in your observation of them, you're having emotional responses to them. And we would like you to try to imagine that each one of those emotional responses is an indicator of what kind of grid, what kind of foundation, what kind of grid you've got going on that will fill in. It will fill in. Now, it might fill in quickly on this very day, or on this very hour, or within these few minutes that are surrounding you. It could fill in quickly if the intensity of your focus is significant enough that you establish a vibrational grid with enough attraction power. In other words, you can get going on things and something can be so emphatically offered in your vibration that your grid will fill in so fast it will knock your socks off if you're not aware of what creation is all about. But sometimes your grid fills in more slowly because you move along and you sort of kind of feel that way, and you sort of kind of feel that way, and you sort of kind of feel that way, and you sort of kind of feel that way. Then you feel a little more that way, and then the grid fills in with somebody else who will talk to you about it. And as the grid fills in with somebody who will talk more with you about it, then the grid becomes more substantial, a more substantial point of attraction. So let's call this grid, and you understand what we mean by it, let's call it your point of attraction. Your point of attraction that you have more control over than you have been exercising. But in either case, whether you're controlling the content of your vibrational grid deliberately or by default, just by observing and feeling and observing and feeling, in either case, it is filling in. So as it starts to fill in, what are some of the first things that fill in? Ideas, more ideas that come to you, more thoughts, impulses. Your impulses come from that. You would call them inspiration sometimes, especially if they're good to you, impulses. But your impulses, when to stop, when to go over there, when to call this person, those impulses are all part of your grid filling in. People rendezvousing with you, the things they say to you, the things that happen in your experience around you and with you are your grid filling in. So what we would like you to consider, and we know that you're here wanting to be deliberate creators. You understand? Yes, that you create your own, yes, reality. Yes, you get that? Yes. In other words, you've been listening to us for a while, and what you offer vibrationally and what comes back to you is always a vibrational match. It always, always is. But as we break this down just a little bit and we help you to decide to be more aware of what you're doing with your grid, which means be more aware of what your emotions are telling you. We think that if we tell you that what you feel is an indicator of a grid that has attraction power, that you might be more aware of how you feel, but even more important, you might be willing to deliberately alter the way you feel by your deliberate choice of focus, because you can focus. You have the ability to create your own grid. You really do. Do you believe that? Yes. Most people don't. Most people just create a grid based upon how they feel about the last grid that attracted stuff. So it's sort of this cycle. You had a grid, it attracted stuff. You observed the stuff and you created another grid. And then that grid attracted more stuff and you observed it and then you created another grid. Don't you like knowing that you are the creator of your grid? And if you are the creator of your grid, then you are the creator of your point of attraction. And if you are the creator of your point of attraction, then you are the creator of the impulses that come, the thoughts that come, the ideas that come, the rendezvous that come, the coincidences that occur. Those coincidences, you think they're coincidences in a sort of chancy way. But they're not coincidences in a chancy way. They are coincidences. They are incidences that cooperatively come together. They are converging of similar vibrations, you see. And don't you like knowing that you have so much control over all of that? And doesn't it make you want to work on your grid? Now, we want you to know that the grid is a vibrational basis. And at that vibrational basis is the essence of everything that you want. If you've been listening to us for a while, you've been hearing us say that you can be or do or have anything that you set your mind to, anything that you focus upon. Without exception, you can. But there is an emotional, vibrational, grid-like basis at the root of everything you want. You've heard us say, everything that you want, whether it's a relationship or a material object or a pile of money or a physical condition or a circumstance or an event, every single thing that you want, without exception, you want it because you believe you will feel better in the having of it. And so that's what we're talking about with the grid. We're talking about the feeling better with the having of it or without the having of it, the feeling better with having the knowledge that if you create an emotional grid that feels like the essence of what you think you will feel once you get what you think you want, you follow all of that? If you can feel it before you get it, if you can feel the grid, if you can feel the basis, if you can find the emotional place, that simple but powerful, non-resisted vibrational place. And at the root of the grid are emotions. And we think if you would focus emotionally on your grid, in other words, if something happens, let's say that something happens, it's an awkward situation with someone you care about. And you find yourself having those same normal knee-jerk thoughts that you often have when this happens with anyone, but especially with this person. It's been going on for a while. So you have your response, which means you have just established a new vibrational foundation, or you have added to one already established. But the emotion that you're feeling of uneasiness or even anger or frustration is your indicator that you can keep this going. You certainly have the free will and the right to do it. But if you keep this going, even for as long as 17 seconds, it takes 17 seconds to establish a grid. 17 seconds to establish a grid. And as you identify something and you stay focused upon it for that little bit of time, what's going to happen is it's going to start filling in with other things like it. And so the sooner you can catch yourself with conscious awareness that you've got something going on that you might not want to wait until it fills in other words, it's easy to know you want to establish a different grid when all kinds of manifestations are occurring that you don't want. But deliberate creation really is about holding yourself in that good feeling place. So if you will think about this emotional grid in an emotional way and ask yourself, what are the emotions that I'm feeling? And more important, what emotions do I prefer to feel? You can catch this at the early subtle stages. In other words, rather than going off with law of attraction, feeding you all kinds of thoughts and memories and bringing to you all kinds of other things that match it, and other people that agree with you about the injustice that you've just lived, or other people agreeing with you about the injustice and living it around you. In other words, you can get a whirlwind, sort of like a vortex of all kinds of things going on. It can come to you really fast, can't it? But if you are wise enough to know that 17 seconds is establishing a grid here, and what am I wanting to do with my grid right now, right here, right now, right here, right now? Because every moment is new, you know. Every moment is new. We don't want you to think that you've got a bunch of grids piled up that are going to play themselves out, because that's not true at all. The grids that you have been creating and living in the past have nothing to do with what you're doing right now, because your point of attraction is right now. This is a fresh new day and a fresh new moment and a fresh new grid in this fresh new moment, and you have control over what you do with your grid right now. Now, chances are you're going to do right now with your grid what you've been doing with your grid. You are. You're probably going to do what you've been doing because what you've been doing feels so familiar to you. It feels normal to you to observe that and feel this way. It feels normal to you. And most everybody, all those daytime talk shows would agree with you. In other words, all that reality TV, they're all feeling for you. They all know exactly what they feel your pain. They know exactly what you're going through. But you know too much now. You now know that in this moment you are establishing right here, right now, a new grid, a new grid, a new grid, a new grid. And what's at the basis of it? Is your grid getting kicked off in this moment and in this moment and in this moment based upon what you're observing or based upon what you've lived lately or based upon what you're remembering? How far back are you going to dredge up the grid that you don't want? And in many cases, you would say, well, I don't have to go back that far because the grid just keeps coming with me and filling in all around me. And we want you to begin to want to take control of your grid by saying, it's new in this moment. What am I going to do about it? And if you will decide that you want it to be an emotional response that you're giving it, an emotional response, where we're wanting you to take control of the basis of the foundation of that which you are attracting. Now, how does that feel to you? Makes sense, yes? Something you can sort of get your thoughts around? So now, Abraham, you are sort of giving us the idea that we are surrounded by our grids of our own making. And we say, yeah, you've got a grid about your physical body. You have a grid about your relationships. You have a grid about finances. You have a grid about a lot of different subjects, and all of those grids blend together in the sense of how you feel basically. In other words, if you've got a strong sense of security, it's probably bleeding over into all of your grids. But if you've got something going on in your life that is causing you to particularly focus upon something, it's really got your attention, that one thing, whether it's something you really, 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 really like or something you really, 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 really don't like, it has the potential of really influencing the grid or the foundation or the attraction point for you. And so if there's something going on that you find yourself obsessed with and you don't feel good emotionally as a result of your attention to it, it might be something in the news, it might be something political, it might be something that's happening in your family or to you specifically. But if you've got yourself really focused a lot on something specific and it doesn't feel good to you while you're thinking about it, then we want you to know that you are establishing a grid that's going to fill in with more unwanted stuff. In like manner, if there's something going on in your life that is really ringing your bells, it's making you feel high and happy. You're waking up thinking about it. You're finding yourself wanting to talk to everyone about it. Then you've got a grid going on that's filling in with a lot of other things. And it doesn't just fill in with the things specific to the subject that caused the grid. That's the thing that we really want you to understand. It fills in with other things that are vibrationally same, but it can be on a myriad of different subjects. So what we just said to you is find one thing to get happy about, establish a grid, and live happily ever after relative to everything else in your life. Or find one thing to be unhappy about, establish a grid, and use it as your basis for all kinds of other things that you don't want to come to you. You live in a universe of attraction that is a vibrational place. And the vibrations are responding because of the powerful law of attraction to one another. And all is well in this world. And as you acknowledge your vibrational beingness, and then you acknowledge that the emotions that you feel are your indications of your vibrational beingness, and that the better you feel, the more in sync with that larger grid you are, and the worse you feel, the more out of sync with it you are, and that in every moment you have the opportunity, the option and the opportunity, not challenge, opportunity, not responsibility. You have the chance right now to make a new grid, right now to make a new grid, right now to make a new grid. And the new grid that you just made is going to be dominant at least for the next 17 seconds. And if you can maintain it for at least that long, more will come to it. It will start filling in right away. And you're off and running, being the deliberate creator that you came to be. You didn't come to fix stuff that's broken because you knew from your broader perspective that nothing is broken. You came forth to revel in, to enjoy, to take pleasure in your inevitable expansion, you see. We've enjoyed this interaction more than any words could convey, but it is our knowing that we had conveyed it with far more than words. We know that you got it at many levels of your being. And now our wish for you is that you just softly play with this. Monkey around with the grid. Do it a little today and a little tomorrow and watch how it fills in. And take back your power and join with your true power and revel in the wholeness that we are all together. There is great love here for you and appreciation for that which you are.